This is the table runner I'm making for my mom. I'll go a little closer so you can see the fabrics. I did 3 lines of quilting across it, just to anchor it. One sort of in the middle and one toward each end. And other than that, I'm running quilting lines down the seam, along each long seam. If you go quite close in there, it's called stitch in the ditch. Now, mine is sometimes more like near the ditch, but that's the idea of it. The backing is the little pink roses. You can see where the quilting lines are a little bit. The binding is going to be this blue print. And I just have to put a label on it. And then my mom can have it for spring for her dining room table. For some reason from Jordan Fabrics for this, I also got 2 orders. So, I use 1 jelly roll to make the top, and there's another jelly roll. I have a good pattern to make a bag, so I'm going to use the other one to make a bag up. These squares, or pardon me, rectangles, are cut 2.5 by 8, because the jelly rolls are 2.5 inches wide. So you just cut them by 8 and lay them out so that they're not all too close together, and then you have to stagger them so that your seams don't join. So like the seam that joins these 2 is right in the middle of this one, and then etc., 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 all the way across. It's called bricks, or bricklayer, and I will link the video that I used as a guideline down below once I get this all edited and done. I've got all the quilting done on the table runner now, and I have all this extra backing, so now I have to trim it all up and make sure it's square, and I will show you how I do that. Now I have to get this all tidied and trimmed up before I can put the binding on it, but out of my way, you don't just go cutting it all willy-nilly, got to make it square. So all of the lines on the quilting ruler, I try to line them up with the seam line this way as best I can. So put your square like this. I'm also going to be squaring this corner as I go. So for right now, I'm going to take this line here, is the 10-inch line. It's nice and easy to see. So we line that up along the seam. So that's right along there. Looks not too bad on the side. Now let's go along there. So 2 inches up is 8. That one looks pretty good along that seam right there. That one's good there. That one's good there. This one, just gonna pull it down a smidgen. If it's really close, it's okay too, as long as you're not like wildly out. I'm gonna tug this just a little bit down this way because it could be better right there. This way just a smidge. As long as most of them are right on the money, you're good to go. Okay, so make sure everything's on the board so you're not cutting off the board. And because I'm trying to go here, I just want to scoot it up just a bit so that the bottom can get trimmed up. Okay, double check all my lines. Smidgy, and this way. Just making sure. Sorry, this does take some time. You want to be accurate. Otherwise, you're going to have trouble getting your binding on. It's going to look all weird, too. You'd have a straight table runner, not a crazy, crookedy one. Okay, so I'm concentrating on here at the moment. So yes, let's take this off here like this. Give your blade a little jiggle in because you're going through a few layers at this point. Also, I probably should have a new blade, but I gotta buy another one first. Hold that down tight so it doesn't shift, and cut here too. Okay, then you got a squared off corner that's 90 degrees. So, change rulers. Long enough one. So now you have a starting line, and now you have a nice corner. So again, line up one of the lines here on your corner, and the side along the edge that you already cut. Now go through and just double check your lines again where your seams are, just to make sure in case you got to jiggle it a little bit, like right there, for example. That looks good there. Nope, that looks good there. And that looks good at the top. Okay, and then we just carry on and slice like so. And I'll bring this one back, and I will do this corner. But in order to cut it successfully, I have to turn the quilt, and then it's in the way of the camera. So that's how you do it. Pretty simple. I'm going to get the binding done on my mom's table runner. Now, in the video I did of my friend's quilt, I did explain how to make binding. So I'm not going to explain it again. If you can go back and see that one, I'll try to remember to put a link up too. But what I need to do is this blue was sewn onto the back. So now I'm going to flip it over to the front and sew down the edge the same as I did the other one. Now that last quilt was almost the same color front and back, so I just used cream thread for both sides. But this one you have to vary it up a little bit. So in the top, because I'm going to sew right along there, I have a dark blue thread. It's not a perfect match, but it's pretty close. I do have to make another bobbin up because mine's out, but the bobbin is going to be white. So then when I sew along here, there'll be a line of blue. And when I flip it over, approximately along maybe half an inch or so in, there'll be a line of white sewing. And it'll match the quilting lines that's already there because I'm using the exact same white thread. Now, as I go, sometimes your tension is a little fiddly. You got to make sure that you're not bringing the white thread up to the top or having the blue thread go down below. So I usually do just a few stitches, have a look. If it looks like it's funky, I'll play with my tension and just fiddle with it until I get it right. And then I just stitch it all down and I'm off to the races. And I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. This area right here is where I started sewing on the other side. There's a very faint hint of the blue coming through, so I put the tension one number higher on my sewing machine, and then after that, it's all white. And the blue, sorry, there we go, you can see it better. See, it's not a perfect blue match, but it's pretty close. Next I will show you one way how I like to make labels.